Welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, the NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. This is the preview crew, and I'm your host, Keith McGinty. After bullying the Dolphins last week, it's London calling for the Bills. After humbling the wounded Bengals, the Titans travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts team, ready to welcome back the electric Anthony Richardson. And game of the week comes from Santa Clara on Sunday Night Football when the 49ers welcome the Dallas Cowboys. We'll discuss all three of these games and the rest of the Week 5 action tonight with the preview crew. So to break down the best of the action, I'm joined by some of our finest crew members, although they're more raggy dolls than from Andy's room. There's lots of hugging and this furry-faced Bengals fan. It's Stu. Stu, how are we this evening, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. A lot better than Joe Burrow's calf. Feeling pretty decent.
Off to a bad start for you guys there, but you're looking well. You said you get your hair done for this as well. It's a special occasion.
I just kind of did it up with a wee bit of gel for once. I've got the brow cream out. I'm trying to do a bit more self-promotion these days because I don't know if you guys remember, I've got a single coming out next week.
So you have?
Aye, 13th of October, so a week on Friday. I can't actually believe it's come up that fast.
That's
it's
amazing.
Gridiron.
It's have you got any dates or anything yet?
No, this is just me on my own kind of thing. So it's not the band, because I'm in a band called Houston Grey. For anybody that doesn't kind of know what I do outside of this, but I have this other kind of project that I've been working on over the last kind of year or so, where I've been kind of delving into the world of electronic music and sampling
things.
Cool. So my first song's called Gridiron, so it's actually football themed and kind of trip hop beats and a whole bunch of samples from 70s and 80s football games, players, interviews, all that kind of stuff. So
amazing.
Dropping in the 13th.
And we'll make sure we'll be sharing the links to that in the Irn-Cru socials as well, mate. Fantastic. On you. It's good putting yourself out there at the comfort zone a wee bit, isn't it? You must be a wee bit nervous.
A wee bit, aye, because this is, like I say, it's not my normal kind of indie rock kind of type thing. So it's put myself out there a bit and using some of my other influences and can see what I can do with those.
Fantastic. Well, the next crew member we've got, he's been known for his ability to cause a few wrecks in his time. It's Pat fan Scud. Scud, you well, my buddy?
I'm great, mate. And may I just say I put some effort in my hair and that tonight as well, just to make sure I was looking suave.
You've went all kingpin there with the polish and the bowling ball there. Thanks very much. There's an obvious Cowboys link when you think of the Toy Story theme that we're going to start with this evening with our final crew member. He may think he's a Woody, but we all know that he's really just a big Jesse. It's Dallas Dan. Dan, welcome, buddy.
I like that one. Tonight, maybe people are regular watchers. I'm in new surroundings, new job, new office from home. I've surrounded myself with Harry Potter Lego because I know the Cowboys are going to be magic this weekend.
Oh,
hey. Fantastic. We all had a good week.
Yeah, great week, mate.
Yes.
yeah, good. Enjoyed the football last week with the first of our London games. We're going to kind of touch on that with our kickoff question a wee bit. But actually, last Saturday, managed to see a wee bit of live flag football for the first time. Went up to Ravenscraig in Motherwell to see the East Kilbride Pirates women's team. They were playing a couple of games and managed to catch the second of those games, and it was actually really, really interesting. I've not seen flag football. I've watched wee bits of it on YouTube and TikTok and things like that, and I'd seen that quite a few of the players had been doing really well. They'd won a competition over in Italy, I think it was, in the past couple of months. So I went up to see it because really, really interested. And this week is actually an important week in Scotland because it's women and girls, Scottish women and girls in sport week. So it was really good for me to see just the standard that we had there, and it was quite intricate and quick play. I was surprised with how detailed it was with the running and the routes and things like that. Quite a few picks as well for the Pirates, which was great to see. So I'll be making sure I've gone back to see some more of their games. I don't think they've got another home game for a while, But looking forward to seeing more of them. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to get a couple of the Lady Pirates on the podcast to help us out a wee bit. But really enjoyed that. Dan, you used to play a bit of flag football, is that right?
Yeah, I played flag twice in 2 different teams. I played the original Glasgow Sabres, which was one of the first, the team that came out of basically a Claymores forum. We created a team,
Wow.
and then I was kind of 18, 19 at the time, and then obviously life gets in the way of things, and then good few years later, Gav was involved with the Glasgow Hornets. They got me back along there, and I played a couple of seasons there. Before I got a bad ankle injury and had to give it up. But flag is an amazing sport to play. It's so fast paced. There's none of your stop start like your normal football games, but it's so much fun as well. It's not, you think, oh, it looks a fun game, but then you realise when you start playing it how serious people actually take it. It's the level of detail that you said is mental, but it's such a fun sport to play.
Just so quick, and it doesn't take up too much space, so it can be played in playgrounds. I can see it really taking off in the next couple of years, and definitely in Scotland. Talking to one of the coaches, he takes a youth team in Hamilton. My wee boy was very interested, so he might be getting a wee shot at that in the next couple of weeks on a Sunday morning down at Palace Grounds, I think it is, from 10 to 12. So I was talking to Brian, who's one of the coaches there, and he was telling us all about it. Mentioned that it might be getting involved with the Olympics in 2028, I think it is, which is amazing. Just again, it shows you the range that the NFL has and how American football is starting to just take over the world, and that's why we are here sitting in the deepest, darkest parts of Scotland and Canada, and blethering about the world sport. So thoroughly looking forward to seeing how that develops, and hopefully, as I said, get to more of the EK Pirates women's team games, and hopefully get a couple of the Pirates on sometime. Right, gentlemen, we've done our welcome. Let's get on to our kickoff question. And you may have seen on Twitter today, we released our kickoff question. Great one. It's following on from the Sunday afternoon game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars, where it was shown, I think there's a slight delay, maybe 1 or 2 seconds, but it was shown simultaneously on Disney Plus. But it was in animation form, and all the players took animation form. It was as if it was taking place in Andy's room from Toy Story. So, our question, after the NFL is ever evolving, right? So the NFL linked up with Disney to bring us Fun Day Football last Sunday. So after Toy Story, what animation style should the next NFL game be in? Dan, I'm going to come to you first for this one.
Yeah, no bother. My obvious first answer to this one was actually realised I'd be plagiarising if I used the first answer that came in my head, which was Looney Tunes, but then I forgot about that's Space Jam. You can't really do that. There's so many different ones. I mean, I think for that, the Toy Story one was excellent. And Toy Story is my favourite Disney film, so again, that would have been another answer I would have picked. I think going back to the what about Rugrats? Playing it in the living room floor in the Rugrats.
Nice.
And in the wee playpen, a wee football field in the wee playpen.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I loved from the Toy Story. I think it was what was the Slinky Dog as the chains. That was just terrific. Brian and the absolute genius.
It's the level of detail in these things that's mental.
Absolutely, and the way they were able to just transfer each of the players into the game and show their run and the route. Think of the amount of kids that are waking up in America on a Sunday morning watching that with their family members. That's just going to get them hooked for decades to come. Yeah. Scud, what about you? Which cartoon animation style would you pick for the next one?
If I go with my cartoon, I've got a lot to choose from. I love my cartoons, but an 80s Wayne. So there's plenty to go from. But I think I'll go Transformers, just so you can get Autobots versus Decepticons. I think it'll be a cracking.
That'd be brilliant. Can just see like A-Chain turning into one of these speedy cars and just like flying down the through everything, crashing into everything. That'd be terrific.
Showing Tyreek how what's real pace is.
Yes,
there is a cheetah. There is a cheetah.
Oh, there's a cheetah.
Transformer.
The Beast Wars kind of one. Yeah.
The Beast
Wars. Transformers fantastic. Beast Wars, yep.
Well, we're big into our Michael Bay Transformers on the crew we can see. Stu, what about yourself? What would you go for?
See, this is tough. I was kind of the same. I was almost going down that 80s cartoon route as well, but I'm going to say South Park because I absolutely love South Park and I think it'd be absolutely hilarious. And obviously we've seen them, like, they skewer and parody everything anyway, but we've already seen the Denver Broncos obviously feature in South Park before in the past. But one of the things I would like to see as part of that is, like, anytime you have a quarterback being sacked, you could have Stan appearing
Kenny
and
Pickett.
shouting, aye, Kenny gets killed, aye, basically. And then you have Stan appearing going like, oh my God, you killed Kenny, you bleep. Or somebody makes a bad play and Mr. Hanky appears, like the Christmas whenever somebody does something like, throws the ball too short or something like that kind of thing. So I think South Park could be great.
When love staggers about the place, Mr. Towley comes up.
Oh man, these are terrific. Right, yeah, right. I think that's really, really good. If you've got any of your own suggestions, please get in touch with the crew and get us on Twitter at Gridiron Crew. We're on Instagram, the Twitch. We're on all of them. For me myself, I would be harking back, like you say, we'd go back to the glory days of cartoons. It would have to be the 1994, 95 X-Men cartoon. Nice. I think that'd be absolutely brilliant seeing like Max Crosby as Wolverine coming round just like tearing people to shreds to try and get to the ball, or Beast in the O-line just like protecting his quarterback, and then Blankenship coming on as Cyclops. I think that would be absolutely.
Hey, you've missed an obvious one there. Like, cause you have Derek Henry as the Juggernaut. He can't be stopped. Yes. Just starts running with the ball and then off he goes. He did it to us at the weekend. He had his get right game against the Bengals, of course. But yeah, I think he'd be a perfect Juggernaut.
Yeah. Dalton is the Phoenix as well. Big Red himself.
Aye.
See, speaking about styles, have you seen the new Turtles movie?
No.
The animation in that it's different. Cool. It's cool. That is if you talk about just a style, that is amazing. That would actually be good to have that.
I can't see past the latest Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse movies. That just took it to a new level for me, the complexity in that. But listen, we're going to keep this. No doubt we'll do a movie podcast at some point during the summer, because NFL off-season's a long, long time for us to just like blether a wee bit about who's maybe getting paid. I think we need to diversify next year. So we'll get plenty of chance to talk about that. Great, fantastic. We are now going to head south from sunny Glasgow here, and a wee bit further for you, Stu, and we'll head to London for part 2 of the London shows. We've got the Jaguars, who are away this time, to the Bills. Buffalo Bills.
Tough road game. Tough road game for the Jaguars. A lot of travel this week for that away game.
I think the Jags have been like keeping to American time, or do you think they'll be acclimatized to? I don't imagine it'll be much. Yeah, Scott, you did the trip to Massachusetts last year. What was the jet lag like for you?
It all rolled over into a hangover, mate. So it was nothing. It was just 3 days. It didn't really affect you, to be honest with you. If I'm being totally honest.
I can't imagine it being too much. Yeah, I think for them.
I think it's too long a period to stay in American time for the Jags.
Yeah. I will say though, Dan, I don't know about that, because I have a feeling that they've probably tried to keep themselves at least to their meal times. They've probably tried to keep the same. Just because there is a big thing, like we see it a lot here in Canada, or they talk about it a lot, because obviously Canada's a huge place, and in hockey, the whole traveling mainly from west to east is a big issue, especially when you have teams playing like earlier than they would normally play. So if I'm the Jaguars, if I'm their coach, I would probably be saying, guys, we're going to try and stick to that game clock, just because you don't want to mess up your body. Like anything that affects your rhythm, especially around about food and sport, it's going to screw you up in the game. And if the Bills are coming over and they're ready to go for, I know it's an earlier kickoff than normal, but if they're going, ready to go for 9 a.m. or whatever it is, like Bills time kind of thing, the Jaguars are going to struggle because if they've lived there for 2 weeks now and got into British time, it could actually mess them up and it's going to screw them up going back. Or if they got a bye next week, actually.
That's what I was going to say. I thought they had a bye next week, so they'll.
The Jags must have a bye, surely. But,
I'll take a wee bit of getting used to it. So their last game, they beat. I think we were all tipping the Atlanta Falcons to run over the top of them, but the Jags D did its job and they trounced the Falcons 23-7, which was not an entirely inspiring first London game, but it was a good enough win for the Jags. Do we see them continuing this against the Buffalo Bills? Who, let's get this out of the way just now. The Bills D certainly showed up against the all-conquering Miami Dolphins last week. This is going to be a much tougher game for them this week, Dan.
Yeah, it definitely will. Just to come back to what you say, the Jags don't have a bye next week.
Do they not?
Oh, that's rough.
The Jags are at home at the Colts next Sunday, early kickoff, 6 o'clock.
So, divisional game as well. That's rough.
Yep. So yeah. Oh no, no week one now. Sorry, we're on week 4, aren't we? No, week.
Yep.
Week 5. We're on.
This is week 5.
Yeah. So week 6. Sorry. Yep. Next Sunday. Yep. Colts at Jaguars.
That's harsh.
Yeah, it's very harsh. Sorry, get back to the point. Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think the Bills turned up last week. That's the Bills that I think we all expected to see this season. Josh Allen turned up. The Dolphins were a bit of a surprise. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, the Jags, this thing we're talking about the time difference could be a factor. The London games are a bit different as well, obviously, in terms of fan base. So you're not going to have a massive home or away fan base. Either you're going to have that mixture of crowd as well. I do fancy the Bills for this one. How it's going to play out would be quite interesting to see.
Scott, who are you thinking then is going to continue on with their good performances for the Jags there? Trevor Lawrence is not quite been catching fire just yet. Last week it wasn't even Calvin Ridley. It was more Christian Kirk that was getting the yards. So far he's got 257 yards in the first 4 games and just the 1 touchdown for Christian Kirk. Ridley lagging behind a wee bit there with 211, but he's got the 2 touchdowns. It's a good couple of options that Lawrence has got there. I think that they'll have enough to get past this Bills defense.
Oh, I think they've got a chance because you've not only got, as you described there, Ridley and Kirk, but you've also got Ingram and you've also got Etienne catching out the backfield as well. For me, the biggest disappointment with the Jags is they need to get some form of run game going. They're not going to beat big teams like the Bills without getting that going. Etienne is meant. You can see flashes of what he is, but for whatever reason, the run game just doesn't seem non-existent almost. So, I think they've got a chance. Being there for this week and the Bills travelling, that will play a factor. How big a factor, I don't know. But I think they've got a bigger chance because of that. And if they can get some form of run game going, which is easier said than done against the Bills D, it's going to be interesting. But I think this will be a better game than last week. I'm hoping it's not a blowout one way. I'm hoping it's a competitive game, but I'd say I just think I don't know. I'm really on the fence who to pick for this one, but I think the Jags have got the tools to do it. It just needs to be a complete performance because last week they were good for a half and then disappeared the second half. So if you can't do that against a team like the Bills, you'll get destroyed.
As someone who is a Bigsby owner in fantasy, 100% agree with the running game thing.
Well, Stu, I was just going to come to you there and say, is it time for them to maybe widen it up? The most that he's been getting is maybe the first game, Tanks Bigsby got 7 carries, but after that, it's only been 2 or 3. He's got 2 touchdowns already this season, but only for like 10 yards in each of the games after that. Are they maybe needing to open it up a wee bit? Because he's certainly a different type of player to Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I also had kind of high hopes for for what he's done as an actual player in real life. I think he's done pretty well with the limited carries he's had. And to speak to Dan's point on fantasy, yeah, it would be quite good for many fantasy owners to probably see Tank start playing or being given a few more carries. I do think against the Bills, they are going to struggle if they can't establish a run game as well. I realize that's like the analytics or the anti-analytics kind of view is like establish the run and then you'll win. Like, no, that's it. I know it doesn't really work like that in modern football, but they need some form of run game as well. Because on that point, like one of the things I was looking forward to last week when Miami played the Dolphins was seeing what that kind of high-powered passing attack could do against the Bills' defense. And then once you had the return of Damar Hamlin coming back in, there were some people saying like, oh, look, they're a bit slightly weaker at safety now. So that's something the Dolphins could expose. Well, they never managed it, kind of thing. And if anything, I'd say the Dolphins had more success through A-Chain in the rushing game. So that really, for Jacksonville, they're going to need to get Tank involved because ETN is a good back, but he can't do it all on his own. And I think in the modern NFL, you really need to have that at least a tandem. If not, maybe sometimes the 3-player carousel or rushing, or whether it's another running back or you work in a wide receiver in the backfield that can do the whole kind of
sweeps,
sweeps and jet sweeps and boot scoot and boogie around there with the ball. But I think run game for Jacksonville, that's to me, like if they can get that going as part of this game, they have a chance. We'll obviously get to how we think the game's going to go in a bit here, Keith. But for Buffalo on their side, after you saw them play the Dolphins last week, it's kind of difficult to see many weaknesses because now, Josh Allen hasn't been Mr. all-action, all-hero guy this year. But again, it's one of those things, like we said with Hurts in previous weeks, he's not really had to do all that much yet. And Buffalo, this year, they finally seem to be using other rushing options than just having Allen sprinting with the ball every single time. But he still has that ability with his legs too. And their defense is outstanding. So, it's going to be tough sledding for Jacksonville, but there is a path there.
A couple of stats there for you. Sorry.
Go for it, Dan.
So the Bills have actually got the biggest points differential in the league. They're number one point differential in the league now. A point ahead of the Cowboys. They've only conceded 55 points. Their defense is number one in the league for takeaways. Joint number one with the Bucks. They've had 10 takeaways this season. Stats had the breakdown a second ago. So they've had 8 interceptions and 2 fumble recoveries so far this season. So you might try and get the passing game against them, but their DBs are going to take that ball away from you.
Yeah.
So they're number one offense in terms of point differential, and number one defense in takeaways. That's tough to compete against.
It's surprising as well, since the first game of the season, that they didn't look all that steady, didn't look all that sure in themselves. Josh Allen didn't have a shocker, 236 yards against the Jets, but 29 out of 41 attempts. Last week he was so economical with his passing, 21 out of 25 completions for 320 yards. He had a QB rating of 88.9. It just shows that the guy has levels that he can go up, and I think they're starting to find their groove. Be honest, that quite a few of us in the crew had wrote them off. We talked about last week about how the Bills had a chance for going for the Super Bowl, but that door was closing, and I think it was Claire the Bear, who we had on last week, was talking about the window, and the window was shutting slowly on them. Yeah. Well, they busted it wide open last week with that performance against the Finns. Josh Allen, then, when he is focused, when he's not just trying to create in the pocket, when he can get his reads away, the guy's a real talent. But when he is a wee bit more conservative with his running, and if there's nothing happening and making that wee burst forward, he's a game changer. He's an absolute winner for the team. Yeah. Do we see, Dan, do you see him making the being the real difference then this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I say, I'm one of the people that wrote the Bills off and said that the window had closed on them. I thought they'd missed a Super Bowl window. As I said at the start of the season, it was going to be Burrow and it was going to be Mahomes. Burrow's done nothing this year to make that point even look even likely. Obviously, Tua's stepping up again this year. So that number 2 spot in the AFC now, I would have thought that was going to be the Bengals to throw away, is now wide open. And I think the way Josh Allen can play in the way he has now turned up is there for their taking. And I think he's going to be the thing that leads the Bills this season. Obviously, they've got great stats on defense. They've got good receivers. But he is the guy that leads that team, and he's the guy that's going to have to put them on his back and take them where they want to go.
Scott, in the off-season, we heard murmurs and rumblings about Stephon Diggs being unhappy. Towards the end of last season, I think there was a few wee altercations at the sideline. With 399 yards and 4 touchdown receptions already this season, it's kind of putting that to bed big time, hasn't he?
Oh, he's definitely put that to bed. He's looking like the Stephon Diggs we know and love, but he's always got that wee bit of diva in my opinion. He's always got that wee bit of he wants his way. If he doesn't get the ball, he's going to kick up a stink, which personally is a rotten attitude to have. It's a team sport.
Aye.
So you're all there to play together. So if you're throwing away the best cornerback and it's leaving somebody else open, like Davis, allow that to happen. You'll still win games. You might get a ring, but he's very toys out of prammy. But
toys out of prammy, I love that. That's a great phrase, mate.
Especially with the Toy Story theme going on as well. Be firing Woody at the window.
but that's about as much Bill's love as I'm wanting to get.
Stu, talk to me about the tight ends. Maybe mention that briefly. Gabe Davis, who's also chipping in with a few touchdowns and important receptions. But it's the tight ends I'm interested in. Dawson Knox, and they drafted Dalton Kincaid this year. What do you make of them then?
Slight spoiler alert for what we're going to talk about later on in our fantasy pick thing. I looked long and hard at both Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. I hate that they both have D names to start and K last names as well. So it goes in my brain kind of thing. But anyway, I looked long and hard at maybe suggesting both of them as I might have put them down as my sleeper picks this week at tight end, because so far, both of them, they're like, Knox is a quality tight end. And when they drafted Kincaid, I know there was a few people that were kind of pulling their hair out and kind of gnashing their teeth, Dan, I think, during the draft, because I believe he was Dalton Kincaid one of the guys that you were looking at for the Cowboys?
I got him.
Oh, no, and I mean, I mean for the Cowboys in real life. I think you were.
Oh, sorry, in real life. Yeah, sorry, yes. But we would have used them properly. That's the difference.
Aye, but what I would say from what I've seen of them both so far, like, I like the way they've been working them into games, like, because basically you've got these two tight ends who, I mean, Knox is slightly more experienced, so as tight ends develop, they seem to get better at the blocking thing as they go, and Knox is doing that kind of pretty well so far. And Kincaid is picking that up too. So it's like you have this kind of just this option where I think having those two heavy tight ends has allowed Davis to kind of be a bit more free as well in the wide receiver game. Because last year, I know that there were some people from the fantasy perspective that were disappointed with Gabe Davis. But I didn't pull his numbers up. But if you go back and look at his numbers from last year, he didn't actually have that bad a year at all. It was just he was maybe drafted slightly higher than he probably should have been in fantasy. I think that's been one of the big kind of things that's happened for Buffalo, is those two guys have sort of helped Gabe Davis get 3. And I also think just with their ability to kind of chip at guys that are running in, they've also allowed guys like Cook. So now Buffalo all of a sudden, to go back to what we were talking about earlier about saying how Josh Allen isn't just the guy that's running it all the time now. They actually have a running game as well. Like, that isn't just, Josh Allen will run with it if he needs to. And I feel like the tight ends have kind of been part of that story as well. So, yeah, Buffalo is, as much as we all wrote them off, Dan, I think we maybe need to retract that slightly now because I was the same as you. I went hard on the Dolphins last week because I was sold on like screw it, like the Dolphins are going to vape their way to success. Build their offense like bits of Lego, and McDaniels will do his thing, kind of thing. But yeah, no, I like both those tight ends, and I think they're good together.
Just you mentioned. Sorry, just to say, you mentioned Gabe Davis there. Last year was probably one of his most productive years. 836 yards and 7 touchdowns, 17.42 yards per carry as well. Best thing about Gabe Davis, if you've not checked it, have a look at his picture on Sleeper. He just reminds me of like one of the dwarves from Lord of the Rings. I think he would just look absolutely perfect kicking about with Gimli. So he's one of my favourite images. I might try and trade for him just because I love
just for the image,
just for the picture. Sorry, Dan.
So I was going to say, just on both tight ends, like as we spoke about the draft there, this is going to sound like me just moaning about my fantasy team all night tonight by the sounds of it. I've got them both on different fantasy teams.
That's what the listeners want to hear, Dan.
That's what it is. I've got them both on different fantasy teams, and I've been disappointed by both. The point, like,
yeah, because they're splitting.
As you statement, they've been used to open up other people. They've not been used as receiving tight ends as much as Knox previously has, and what I think everybody expected Kincaid to be. I think everybody in this season thought either Knox is going to stay what he was doing last year and get loads of catches, or Kincaid's going to take his place, and neither of the two of those have happened. They've both basically cancelled each other out in terms of receptions, and it has freed up wide out and the running backs. I mean, Gabe Davis, I had him in fantasy last year. He had a very good season for me last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a great point you make there, Stu, that they've both been used to free up everybody else rather than being a receiving heavy tight end.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like, not all tight ends can be Travis Kelce, and what they are doing is perfect. It's kind of like Hunter Henry, and the guys like the way he's used by the Pats. Like, that's as much as sometimes I rag on the Pats, Scud. Like, I do like the way Bill has used his tight ends like over the year. Like, I think he's a master of like working the tight ends into schemes.
What this having them Gronk?
Well, yeah, and also he who shall not be named, the other tight end, he was very good too. But
so let's have a wee the only other thing I wanted to mention was the Bills losing Tre'Davious White. With I think he had an Achilles injury as well, adding to Von Miller being out for a long time too.
The point on that, Keith, breaking news for you.
No,
Von Miller has travelled.
I thought he might be back.
He's come through 2 practices. He's okay, and he's travelled with the hope that he can play.
He's just want to go and see,
I'd imagine, but
he's just want to go and see Harry Potter land and Madame Tussauds there. That's all he's after. There he is. That's pretty good. If Von Miller's making a trip back, he'll not be far away then. We think maybe a wee bit too soon for him for the Sunday game. But good that he's in contention. He's a good head to have around the team, especially with
just having him in the dressing room and having him even on the sidelines. Yeah. It'll be a big boost for him. I mean, they could easily kit him up and try a bit of mind games with the Jaguars, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It'd be good just to have him around the team, but if he's kitted up, then you've got to think he's going to get on the field at some point. He's not to take a player that puts his kit on and stands on the sideline anyway.
Yeah. Right, Dan, who is going to win then on Sunday for the afternoon match there?
I think the Bills will win pretty comfortably.
Ooh. For the second week in the trot there then. Scott, you going for?
Jags in a 3-point game.
Ooh.
Just couldn't bring yourself to do it, could you?
No.
Good man. Listen, you don't know what these NFL script writers are going to do. I think you're right to hedge your bets here.
I'm going to have week 1 performance again.
Yeah, hopefully. Stuart, what are you going for?
I'm actually glad that Scud went with the Jags there, because it means we avoid the crew kiss of death, which is like where all three is pick a team and then they lose, or all 4 is pick a team and then they lose.
Actually, the Bills then. Bills.
Well,
you need to go Jags then just to break this.
I'm gonna go Bills, and it's purely because just something we said earlier, or you were mentioning earlier about all the takeaways the Bills have had. And I realised that the Jags cleaned it up last week. But remember, when we were talking in our feature heading into last week's game, we talked about how the Jags were leading the league in dropped passes and fumbles and things. So the Bills' defence is going to put a lot more pressure on them this week than what the Falcons did. So I can't see it being anybody but the Bills. And I think it's going to be pretty comfortable. I think in that 9 to 10 point range in there kind of thing.
I'm going to go for my heart here. I'm going to say Doug Peterson is going to help Trevor Lawrence defeat the mighty Buffalo Bills in the away game at Spurs Stadium. If you're going to the game, tag us in some pictures. We'd love to see how it's looking down there. Send your pictures in. We'd love to share them with the wider audience here as well. Next week, if you're back and you'd love to talk about it, get in touch with the crew. Maybe see if there's a wee space available for you if you'd like to join in. But right, so we're going. I'll take the hit. I'll go the Jags. We don't want to be just going for the favourites all the time. Then I'm going for the Jags. Etienne and I think Tank Bigsby's week's going to happen. So there we go. Right, 3-1 for the.
No. I was only kidding. I wasn't changing.
Right, heading back stateside then for the Titans versus the Indianapolis Colts. This is a divisional game in the AFC South, and it's two teams that we've not really touched upon much. We don't have any Titans or Colts fans in the crew just yet. So maybe not been shown them much love. I thought it would be a good idea for us to maybe have a wee review of them, see how we think that they're doing so far this season. Bit of a transitional season for both teams, but Stu, I'll come to you first of all. How do you think let's start with the Titans, the away team.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of saw quite a bit of them last week, and you know what? Considering everybody was saying that they hadn't started very well, they certainly didn't look too poor last week against us. I mean,
sorry,
whether that's a reflection
of the. That was quite inconsiderate of me. I gone to
sorry.
Poor Michael, licking your wounds there.
No. I mean, what I would say is like last week against us, our offense just couldn't get going at all, and the Titans. And I mean, again, we'd said it like even when the Browns were playing them and stuff, they do have a very, very good run D. So heading into this week, it's like that's something I think that they're going to keep doing well. For their offense, Derrick Henry just couldn't get going the first few weeks, but if you look at it from the other side, he's playing the Browns, and I forget who else he's played, but I remember obviously when he was playing the Browns, their run defense is pretty stout as well, so he just couldn't get going, and Myles Garrett had a field day just destroying Tannehill as well, because he knew that there was nothing else kind of going to be going there. For their offense, though, I do think they're maybe finally starting to get going. The Colts, I know you never asked me about them, but the Colts defense, it's struggling. It's one of the things, because I have Tannehill in one of the leagues. I drafted him really late as a backup quarterback. Well, I haven't started him yet or anything, but I've been looking at him. Tannehill's actually been doing really well when he's throwing the ball over the top to the middle. So like between the numbers. I think he's got a passer rating of just over 100 when he's putting it there. The Colts are not doing well defending in that center zone. So if the Titans kind of get the receivers kind of heading into that area, or whether they can get a Conquo or someone like one of their tight ends, get them rushing into that center kind of spot, Tannehill could do really well against this Colts defense. So Titans, I think they're 2-2 and they're in a fairly weak division. So with Tannehill and with their coaching and with their run defense, they could make the playoffs. I think things are looking a bit better than they did after week 2. I'll put it that way.
They certainly did start slowly, and you're looking at the team that they've got. They've got threats there. Ryan Tannehill. I can't remember which game it was. Was it the Dolphins game where? I'm trying to remember. No, I think it was the Browns game. They could beat 27-3. Tannehill just did not look good at all. 13 of 25 completion, only passing for 104 yards. It wasn't. It was looking done round about then, but then he came back strongly last week, as we say. A total turnaround, 27-3 win, 18 of 25 with 240 yards. You mentioned Okonkwo through the middle there. He's someone who I had high hopes for at the start of the season. I drafted thinking that he would be coming into his, I think it's second or third year. I thought a player like that would really do well, and it's not really happened yet for him. As you said, it could be a target that they'd be able to do, but if you look at the rest of the team, they have got options there. They've got Derek Henry, of course, can run the D-Hop's came in. It'll take him a wee bit of time to acclimatise to the team. And
again, he's a guy that he looked good against us. Like he looked like the old D-Hop. Like I think he only got about I'm totally going from memory here, about like 64, 65 yards, something like that last week, kind of in that 60 to 70 yard range. But his catches, they were all really good, like well executed, well run routes. So he's looking like he's into that playbook now, and he's a great wide receiver.
The big long one that Tannehill overthrew him just in the end zone with a peach. If he got that, I was going to be a peach.
Absolutely. So
4 receptions from 6 targets for the 63 yards, as you said.
There you go, 63. I was almost right. Look at that.
Yeah. But it seems to be spreading it out a wee bit. It's not just D-Hop that's being targeted by Tannehill. There's also Treylon Burks. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine seems to be
good.
starting to make a name for himself as well. Is he drafted this summer?
I think he's been there. No, I think he's been there a couple of years.
I'm trying to check. He's fourth season.
Yeah, I was guessing he's been there a few years, and he had an excellent touchdown against us. That was the kind of the backbreaker one for me, where I went, you know what, because usually like I'll try and watch Bengals games like in the full thing kind of thing, like all the way through. But I ended up flipping back to Red Zone, and then we just again bumped back to the Bengals game to see what was going on. But that touchdown was excellent kind of thing. So I didn't turn away because he was playing poorly or anything like that. It was more, I just couldn't face the Bengals anymore. And I thought, I need to go see some other players scoring touchdowns and feel good.
Scud, what about King Henry? So far, 285 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns for him. 122 yards last week against the Bengals was his first big game of the season. Before that, he'd only managed 80 against the Chargers. Is he getting a wee bit too old? Is he maybe just needing a wee bit more time to get up and running? Are we maybe thinking a wee bit too early, jumping to a wee bit conclusions a wee bit too early in the season? Is it round about now, week 4-5, that you start to see the team settle into their rhythm and start to really find the quality within their team?
I think it's a mixture of both. As Stu touched on it, the first couple of weeks had some really hard defences against us, run defences like the Browns, etc. So that, but Henry, I don't think Henry's ever started on fire like a season. He always comes into the season. In my opinion, I've always seen him come into it and gets better and better and better. And even during the games, he'll work away. Then in the second half, you'll see him, the teams are just exhausted and he just goes bye. So he's the same. I don't think he's done. No, I don't think he's too old. No. The guy's still got it and he still looks fit to me. So I just think the way he's always been, he builds up to it. It just comes into it more and more. So I don't think it's anything to worry about for being a Titans fan or anything like that. So I do think he's going to be a big factor. If they're going to be successful, they need him and D-Hop to produce. And Tannehill's keeping his job just now, but obviously you've got Levis sitting in the background as well, waiting to come in for that as well.
Yeah. He's not had a look in yet, is it? Well, Levis, the one I was looking at was possibly for life after Derek Henry is Ty Spears. Has anyone seen much of him so far? He has only managed.
He's seen a bit on Red Zone last week. I think a good couple of carries last week. I've not seen his exact stats, but I remember watching Red Zone. He popped up quite a bit last week.
5 carries for 40 yards last week.
That's
An
good.
average of 8. Yep.
Yeah, I mean he's a quick back.
He's opposite Henry, really, isn't he?
Yeah, but
Henry's the big power back.
You're talking about Henry there. Looking at the league now, obviously it's a passing league, and we've made many discussions in the off-season about running backs, and it seems like even the running backs now they're moving away from that power back. You know what I mean? If you look at Elliott's, he's obviously the Patriots, but he's done. Henry's getting to that stage as well. There's not many power backs left in the league that are now number ones.
Well, even Fournette never even got a deal. Like he's still floating out as a free agency.
Another thing is Jacobs is probably a hybrid of both, to be fair. But there's not many of those backs are now number ones left in the league. So going in the future, people like Tony Pollard, Christian McCaffrey, TJ Spears, Eckler. Yeah, that seems to be the way teams are now going with running backs. So whenever Henry's contract's up, I think he could find himself in a very similar situation to Elliott and Fournette and people like that, where they're like, well, yeah, we'll take you as a goal line or a third down back, but you're not a number one anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What about the wide receivers then? D-Hop, how much is he going to be able to elevate this team? Stu, what have you seen of him so far this season?
I mean, like I said, this past week, he definitely looked like the D-Hop that we all know from previous years, and he had all of his shiftiness and everything, and he's a big guy, like, you know, so he can get up there and catch those balls, and Scud's right, like, if he caught that pass the other day, like the one that was slightly overthrown into the end zone, like, that's going to be a huge play, or whatever, it's probably, you know, touchdown or whatever, and gets him up closer to that 100 yards in a game kind of thing. But his 63 yards that he had this week were kind of top quality. For the Colts, like, actually, just to kind of speak about their wide receivers a bit as well, like, they've been, you know, they've actually looked kind of pretty decent as well. Like, so, I mean, they've got Pittman, I forget who's up. I don't know if you can pull up the order, who their WR2 is, but I've kind of liked what I've seen from them. But they've got kind of some shifty guys that are able to kind of poke holes and kind of, you know, expose defenses. So I think both these teams, it's almost like they're kind of like for like in a lot of ways. Like they both have good, like, as much as I'm saying that, like, obviously the Titans run D is the best in the league. Like, it's fantastic. Like, I think I was just kind of checking my numbers there. They've only allowed, I think it's 2.9 yards per carry. Teams have averages against them, which is like absolutely ridiculous kind of thing. And for the Colts, they're maybe getting Taylor back, so that might help them there if Jonathan Taylor can come in. But I was also looking at his numbers, and specifically against the Titans, his career, I think he averages over 5 yards per carry for his career. Against the Titans, he only averages 3.9 yards per carry. So it's one of those things where
just leave Zach Moss in.
Yeah. But what I was saying there, though, is like, sorry, did you get the wide receivers name there? I think.
Yeah, I've got the wide receiver. So you've got Michael Pittman, the wide receiver once. Alec Pierce is a player that I have been hoping. Hoping that he's going to take off. But yes, but he just doesn't do enough in fantasy terms anyway. For my team.
I know that's it. We're talking fantasy here. That's what I'm like, but to me in real life, I'm like,
no, reluctantly, I've dropped him this week. The wide receiver 3 is Josh Downs there as well. So it's a team that you feel that it can grow. 1 or 2 seasons with these players, you've got the explosiveness of Michael Pittman Jr. there. That if he can get on the same wavelength as Anthony Richardson, who we'll get to in a wee bit there as well. Yeah. But players like Pierce can learn a wee bit more and just settle into the league. That could be quite a dangerous group of playmakers that they've got there. Just as you mentioned, JT there, Jonathan Taylor has been on IR for the past 4 weeks, but he's been back training. I don't know if he'll be available for next week. For this week. They were asking him about his off-season contractual problems with the team, and he says that was an off-season thing. He's putting it behind him now, and he's looking forward to just concentrating in the team. So if you've stashed him away in your fantasy team, you may be on to an absolute winner there, because JT coming back into the team. I can see him being similar to maybe Connor at the Cardinals, just come back and just maybe not in the most successful team, but doing really quite well and making some good plays. Go for it, Scott.
I think it's an exciting time to be a Colts fan. I think if you're a Colts fan at the moment and you're looking at what the team's building, I think you're happy. I think you've got Richardson. I think some people came out when he was out of college weren't sure if he was going to be ready straight off the bat and was going to be able to step up. But I think he's shown already that he definitely was ready. Taylor coming back, Zach Moss there, Pittman. They're maybe missing an elite receiver. If they can get an elite receiver, I think the exciting times ahead if you're a Colts fan.
Hey, here's an idea. If the Colts are, let's say the season progresses and the Titans fall off, kind of thing, they don't do it, they're not doing well, and the Colts are in that running for a playoff spot, or they're winning the division somehow, because it could happen because it's a very tight division. I think they're all 2-2 or something maybe, or 2-2 and 1-3. Would the Colts look at? I realize it's a divisional rivals. It's always hard to do those divisional trades. Would you trade for D-Hop? Just as you're saying, because I still feel that D-Hop's went to the Titans because he was looking for an option where he could go and try and win a ring, and possibly get paid, but that never materialized. So I feel like he settled a bit for the Titans. Which, no offense to the Titans, if there's any fans listening, because I do like them, and I like Tannehill. Like I say, I drafted him late because the guy normally puts up numbers. But I do feel that D-Hop's maybe there because he's thinking, well, I'll just do my thing and then possibly get traded before the deadline to a team that's competing. So if you're the Colts, you could do a lot worse, I think, than look at D-Hop to be the 1-2 punch with Pittman.
Yeah. Scott, what do you think about that?
To me, I think I know what you're saying. They've not got an alpha, a W1, but I just do think that you touched on that. You said JT's numbers wasn't great against Titans for rushing, but not once have they had to think about the quarterback running as well. So if he comes back and you've got the rushing attack of the quarterback, that's got to be massive for them. I'll go as far as saying that if Taylor does come back and is Justin Taylor, not before he actually was injured, I think you're looking at the team that will win that division, no problem. If you've got that dual threat there with your Pittman Jr. and etc., there's a young group of wide receivers, but I do think you've got enough there to win it. And to me, Taylor coming back would be massive for that team.
Anthony Richardson, of course, he is such a complete athlete. He also has the threat of being able to run with the ball himself. So far, he's got almost just over 120 yards so far rushing. Passing,
he's more than
479.
Yeah, Keith, I was just going to say he's more than 10 yards a carry when he runs with the ball, to speak to Scud's point. And also, if you think back, like earlier in the season, one of the things that the Titans really struggled with was Deshaun Watson against the Browns. It wasn't just the Nick Chubb show. It was the fact that Deshaun Watson is able to do stuff that's a little off script. And that's somewhere where I think Richardson's really good as well, whether it's running with the ball or whether it's like getting outside the pocket and making a pass kind of thing as well. It's like, I know there was question marks about his accuracy because I was one of the people that was going, the guy's got like a 50% accuracy rate like through college. I wasn't sure if that was down to college receivers or whether it was down to him and his arm. But to me, Richardson, the way he's looking already is kind of the way people were talking about Justin Fields looking for the Bears, like, being that guy that, he can do stuff like, look, he's so dynamic, he can run outside the pocket and make passes that are accurate and still kind of, just drive the play forward or use his legs. So, yeah, Richardson's an exciting boy. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing him getting back in.
And he's got the arm strength as well that is going to keep him relevant in the NFL. Like you say, for him, I don't know if it was just the excitement of being in the league and trying to show off what he can do. There has been quite a few people doubting him, that he maybe needs to learn to protect himself and go for the slide a wee bit earlier instead of. That's how he injured himself and he missed it. The last game was because he was trying too hard to get that extra yards, trusting his team, trust his teammates and his arm maybe a wee bit more, and he'll be absolutely fine. I think he's going to be a great investment for the Colts this year. Okay, what about the rest of the Colts team? Dan, you mentioned Zach Moss. Tell us a bit about him so far.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Moss is obviously with Taylor being out. I had his stats up and I've just closed the back, so I'll pull them back again.
280 yards so far from 66 attempts, an average yard rating of 4.2 with just the one touchdown so far.
Yeah, so I mean, I think he's stepped in and he's done the job he's required to do. Obviously, as Scott mentioned, having Richardson being able to run the ball as well, I think that's, if you look at other teams that have got those type of quarterbacks, it does take a wee bit away from the running back in terms of their numbers. So I think the balance of both of them is gave them a run attack that. So now teams we looked at the Colts. Colts have always had serviceable quarterbacks since Andrew Luck went out of the game, but they've now actually got a quarterback who can run the ball and throw the ball and win games both ways, which teams that come up against the Colts over the last couple of years we thought, well, we just need to cover Jonathan Taylor, and then the quarterback we just need to do our usual, but we Richardson and Moss and Taylor, so you're now going to have a three-pronged attack on the ground once Taylor's back up and running. I think Moss is going to be a key part of that running game going forward for them.
It's certainly going to be an exciting matchup, but it was partly why I thought it would be an interesting game for us to discuss then. Scott, we'll come to you first of all for predictions for the game. So I think we can maybe say that with teams 2-2, it's going to be quite a tight matchup. Is this going to be the first draw of the season so far?
Potentially, but they're definitely it's going to be a really tight match, and it's all about who. I don't usually about if they can get the ball over the middle. The Titans have got a good chance, but to me, my gut's just. And I like the Titans, I like Vrabel, but to me, my gut's just saying the Colts. Yeah, and I thought they were going to be a tire fire this year. I'll admit that for the start, but they've won me over a bit. So to me, if I go with the Colts, and I would say the Colts, I say it will be close. Maybe the Colts by 4.
Ooh, fantastic. Dan, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think the Colts as well. I'm just looking at the Colts' schedule actually just as we come up here. I think if the Colts can win this game, the schedule they've got coming up, they could go on a decent run until they come up against the Bucks. We got Titans, Jaguars, Browns, Saints, Panthers, Patriots, and then the Bucks. They could go on a decent run here. If they get Taylor back running, they could win. If they win this game, they can go on a decent run. As you mentioned, they could well be contenders for winning this division. I think the only spanner in the works might be who somebody I'll talk about later is the Texans. I think they've surprised a few people, but I think the Colts will have too much for the Titans here.
Yeah. What you putting a score on it then?
By a score.
Stu, what about yourself?
I'm going to go the other way. I actually think the Titans are going to win this, despite the Colts being in a very, very good spot and looking good now. I'm looking at the running defense. I just feel like Derrick Henry's started getting right. And the fact that the Colts have already given up a couple of kind of over 100-yard rushing games to I know Williams, because I have him in fantasy, luckily. Williams for the Rams put up over 100 yards versus them. I can see Derrick Henry kind of possibly being able to feast here again. And I just think maybe the experience is going to be too much. And the Titans will take it on that side. So I think it'll be a close game. I think it's like in that 3 to 5 point kind of difference. And it's, maybe 23, like 20 or 27, 24, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you in this one. I think Vrabel's guys are just starting to get the bit between their teeth. I can see them being a real tough competitor. They're going to still be that. It's amazing to see the Colts Stadium, the fans just getting right behind Anthony Richardson. But I think the bubble's going to be burst. Tannehill is having the last throws of a guy whose career's coming to an end. Will Levis isn't knocking on the door just yet, and I think Tannehill's going to do everything he can to keep himself relevant for the rest of the season. I think it's going to be the Titans for this one. Fantastic, guys. Looking forward to another tough, tight match, and I think it's time we head to the biggest match of the week. I think Sunday Night Football. We're heading to Santa Clara for the Cowboys at the 49ers. And Dallas Dan, going to start with you then. How the Cowboys going to do travelling to the West Coast?
Yeah, this is a probably match of the year. So never mind match of the week so far. This is a game for us. Before we get into the detail of it, this is the type of game that we historically, not just specifically the 49ers, when we win games we should win, and apart from the Cardinals, let's just ignore that for a second. But when we get to these tough games, this is when we just can't seem to take that step, and that's the problem with us at the moment. Well, not at the moment, over the last couple of years, is when it comes to these big games when it's on the line, we just seem to come up short on both sides of the ball. It just seems to be like we could go this fantastic run, and then suddenly you're going to play somebody who is potentially fighting you for a Super Bowl spot, and we just seem to fall short. So this is going to be a huge test of this Cowboys team. We've done well last year. We're building. We're getting stronger this year. This is the biggest test that we will have faced yet. Looking at the way that this season's is set up, I mean, we're great. Sorry, Scott, I'm going to have to talk about this for last week, but you can close your ears if you want. I mean, I know the Patriots aren't. I know the Patriots aren't having the best start to the season, but no matter what situation the Patriots have been in, that's the biggest loss of Belichick's career. A 35-point deficit. He's never lost by that in his career. And dare I say it wasn't the best Cowboys performance either. We weren't firing all cylinders. Again, defense giving us points. That's been I know our defense has always been really good over the last couple of years, but actually turning to the defense getting points is great. They've been getting turnovers and interceptions and getting the ball back to the offense, but now they're adding their own points as well, which is meaning Dak Prescott isn't having to do everything. I think we discussed this the other week, where Dak Prescott is just having to do enough at the moment. He's not having to go and win the games himself, because if your defense is giving you 14 points of a start, you're already on the front foot.
It's as if that whenever he feels that he has to kind of push it a wee bit too much, that's when things start to go wrong for him. That's when the interceptions that he's been notorious for tend to happen, whenever he's trying to just force it that wee bit too much. Just now, everything seems to be nice and relaxed and smooth, and that's why it's going so well. I think knowing that you've got that such a strong D that you can rely upon is kind of that's helping the Cowboys get such a good start. Like you say, the Cardinals result was a bit of a freak, bit of an outlier there. But since that match, they looked back to their usual self from the start of the season. Stu, I'm going to come to you. Dak has done well. Who else has impressed you from the offense for the Cowboys?
I mean, Tony Pollard, I think, is probably the man of the hour, really, like for your offense. He's looked fantastic this year, and looks like he's delivering what you were hoping once you let Zeke go and made it the Tony Pollard show. Like, also a special shout out to your wee man that you have as well, the little Russian Juice or whatever. Like, I want to see more of him. But yeah, no, the Cowboys are good. But one thing I would say on this matchup, though, that I kind of find quite funny, because I was just looking up the historic record there. Dan, do you want to guess what your record is against the San Francisco 49ers, like all-time record?
For some reason, my gut is what to tell me it's pretty poor, but I genuinely don't know.
It's 19, and 1.
Wow.
So you guys are like exactly tied with one tie as well. So it's, and then if you think back, now you think back last year, so you were actually beating them in your record until that playoff game. Last year, because that would have been the when they kind of last played you to kind of pull it back ahead. But yeah,
statistic of the week there.
Statistic of the week. Yeah, we'll have that in early kind of thing. So they're tied. So this is the week where one team can either jump ahead again, or they can tie. Stay the same.
You're sort of all over it. Sort of all over it. You've said that.
Yeah. So you mentioned Tony Pollard. Just to give his stats there, his average yard just now is 4.3, 311 yards so far for the season from 73 attempts, and he's got the 2 rushing touchdowns. The guy has really last season. I think we talked about it in our group chat how he really was taking over from Zeke. Zeke was kind of even holding him back a wee bit, just getting the punch through at the goal line. Pollard showing that he can do that as well. It'd be good to see how he and Deuce form a relationship for the full season. I don't think Deuce can carry it on his own. You need the hammer of Pollard there for the rest of it. Yeah.
I think Rico Dowdy's been number 2 at the moment. He's been getting the number 2 carries. I've been bringing Deuce more in for certain series, but Rico Dowdy's been getting a wee bit more on him at the moment.
Yeah, 80 yards he's had so far from 20 attempts. Scott, what about the wide receivers for the Cowboys? You've got CD Lamb, Brandon Cooks has come in this season, and Michael Gallup. Maybe notable mention there for the Jake Ferguson at tight end too.
No, I think we know Lamb's a star, Lamb's a stud, and I think Cooks just goes about his business. And I haven't seen him at the Patriots, and he's a cracking wide receiver. I think he's always solid for 1,000-yard season. I don't know the stats off his head, but I think he's more or less hit that more every time he's played a full career, a full season. So Cooks, I think, is probably a missing part. I know you get the Cooper, but I think he come in and he could be able to take that takes that workload away. And I think Gallup's solid. I think he's underrated, to be honest with you. I think he's a solid wide receiver who doesn't get enough pop, but I would kill friendly with him like at the Patriots, to be honest with you, because we've got very little.
Gallup's probably staying fit. That's his biggest problem is staying clear injuries. He is a good receiver. He was going to be our number 1 receiver. I mean, before we drafted CD Lamb, Michael Gallup was primed to be the number 1 receiver. Just can't keep himself fit.
Right.
Yeah. When fit, Brandon Cooks has, as you said, been well over the 1,000 yards each of his seasons. 2019 with the Rams, he had the injury. Only managed about 500 yards, and but no, certainly he's a terrific acquisition for the Cowboys. Dan, I want to come to you because last week that we saw, your heart was in your mouth when you saw Micah Parsons and his ankle get stood on, rolled, was it a wee bit? It went off, but came back into the game. Are you worried about that? Because the guy's an absolute juggernaut.
He's just a machine. He's just an absolute machine. That won't keep him out. I mean, it's going to have to be. He's one of those players that you see in the NFL that his leg needs to be hanging off before he comes off the field. I mean, I don't know words to describe him. He just is the perfect player you want on your defense. He's got to be in the running for the player of the year again. He's pressures. He's everything about him. I mean, I just love him. I just think teams that passed up on him in the draft must be absolutely killing themselves now because he was there for the taking. And I mean, I was surprised we got him. I think that was a case of Jerry Jones going, "Who's the best player on the board?" rather than "What do we need?" He's got previous for that, and it worked out. They done it with CD Lamb as well. We didn't expect to get CD Lamb because we had Michael Gallup, and suddenly, he's there, so let's take him.
That was just the 2021 draft. You guys got him at 12 in the first round.
Imagine now if you looked at the draft now and you said we think Micah Parsons would go in a draft now, he'd be 1 or 2.
Yeah, absolutely. 14 tackles this season so far, 4 sacks and 1 forced fumble. Definitely up there if you can keep that going for a defensive player of the season. Right, let's turn our attention then to the 49ers. The ultimate team really there. Everybody knows what they're doing. The Shanahan offense. Brock Purdy. We've talked enough about the Mr. Irrelevant. I think he's well shaken off that tag, but he seems to do. I don't think it's fair in saying that he does just enough, because there's a talent there and he takes a couple of chances with some throws. The guy so far has thrown already over 1,000 yards, and he's thrown for 5 touchdowns. The guy's, I think that not enough credit's put on his name so far, Stu. How has he impressed you? I know you're looking for a Joe Burrow-shaped hole to fill it. Is he one of the ones that you're looking
Joe
for?
Purdy. Joe Purdy, no, Brock Purdy.
Just to enjoy watching this season.
Yeah, no, like I'm absolutely a fan of Brock Purdy. I was last year, and I continue to be this year. I don't know if do you guys know Bernard Purdy? He's a famous drummer, and he was known as the. I mean, he's still alive, but he was known as the hitmaker when he was in his prime, because he played drums and like so many of those kind of like funk kind of Motown tracks back in the 70s. He's also famous for being involved with Steely Dan, who are one of my favorite bands, and he was really known for his like kind of shuffle beats. So if you get a kind of chance, go listen to Home at Last by Steely Dan after we got off this. But he was known for the Purdy shuffle, and that's the one thing I would say with Brock Purdy's quarterback play is kind of just as good as Bernard Purdy's drumming. Like, it wasn't flashy, it was just solid, but had enough groove to it that it made songs hits. Kind of thing. Like, it wasn't like John Bonham or anyone like that, or Neil Peart or big flashy fills or anything. He just had a nice groove to him. And that's the way I feel that Brock Purdy has the Niners offense going. Like, he just kind of keeps things humming along, doesn't overstate himself, does what he needs to, and allows the other people, like the soloists, to do the flashy things. So you've got and then because it's enabled guys like Ayuk, Samuel, who might still be injured going into this week. I think he's been limited in practice, but still expected to play. And then obviously you've got McCaffrey, kind of thing, who's in there, who is basically breaking records this year. Because I think he's now up there with Jim Brown and Emmitt Smith. Dan is like one of only 3 players to ever go over 600 yards rushing in his first 4 games in a season. I think that's something that McCaffrey's achieved.
Did they not break Jerry Rice's record last week for consecutive games of touchdown?
Yeah, for the franchise as well. Yeah. So he did that too. So McCaffrey, as much as we all knew he was good when he was in Carolina, he's now that he's in that Shanahan offense, working with the legend that is Brock Purdy, he's gone to new heights, kind of thing. He's taking higher and higher.
Yeah.
Scott, watching McCaffrey at times in this Shanahan offense, it reminds me of the way that they talked about the Ajax teams of the 70s with the total football. This looks like total football. McCaffrey doesn't just run over the top of players, leap him over the top of players at times, but he can catch and make those yards as well. This just seems like the complete team. What have you made of McCaffrey since joining the 49ers?
But words can I describe it, to be honest with you? He's been amazing. Literally, he's unstoppable, and he's not unstoppable, but he's been really good. And I fear that's one of the biggest things this weekend. I think you should be fearing, Dan. He's the biggest difference between the both teams. Pollard's been solid, but McCaffrey's a game changer. And the guy's brilliant, especially when you manage to fall to number 5 in your fantasy league. In your draft makes it so much better.
How did that even happen?
You and I have been burned before by McCaffrey as well.
I have too. I had him in an injured year.
We've all been burned.
But that was with Carolina. The good thing is we have a good team now.
We're a good O-line.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
The one thing I was just going to say one last thing on McCaffrey. One thing I've loved about what Shanahan does with him and with Samuel as well is the fact that sometimes they'll swap them right before the play is going to go, and you see McCaffrey ends up lining up in the slot, and sometimes he's been all the way out at wide out kind of thing, like when they've been kind of running offensive plays, and then Samuel's went in the backfield, or Ayuk's went back there kind of thing, or even Kittle, I think, is taking some snaps at running back almost kind of thing. So it's Shanahan just seems to be able to do what he wants, and McCaffrey just adds to that, because you know that, well, if we line him up in the slot or a wide receiver, his hands are so good that he's probably going to catch it and make a play anyway.
Dan, that must be so hard for the defense to concentrate on where they're going to target, where they think that the danger is going to come from. When you look at the team, it can come from many sources. You're looking at Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk's doing really well, and Kittle as well turns up as an option in that team. Yep. But the thing is, they're going up against a savvy, well-run, well-drilled defense. Is there anyone else other than McCaffrey that you fear, that you think that this is going to be a death by 1,000 cuts, possibly by from the 49ers? Is this the hardest offense you're going to face in the regular season?
To answer that question, yes, by a mile, but not based purely on talent. I mean, obviously McCaffrey is elite, but they've got good options at Samuel, but I wouldn't put them in the elite category. They just work very well together. Mm-hmm. They're very well drilled. They know their game plan. They know what everybody needs to do, and everybody just executes. So as an offense, they're not, I wouldn't say elite, but they are the best, if that makes sense. Because they all know their job, they all know their role, they all work for each other, and it just doesn't look like there is a weakness in that offense. But for them, they're coming up against, well, you could argue who's got the best defense between the Cowboys and the 49ers. It's close, but they're going to come up. This is the biggest challenge they're going to come up against on the other side of the ball. And it's not just the normal players that are stepping up this year for us. I mean, Leighton Van Der Esch, who I've always really liked, but I just wasn't sure if he would ever take that step up. He seems to have stepped up again this year. Duran Bland coming in for Diggs, 2 interceptions last week and a pick 6. He's stepping up. We know about Parsons, we know about DeMarcus Lawrence. The D-line as a unit is doing well. And the takeaways and the points show that. So I really like the 49ers offense, and I think they are great. But this is going to be this is as big a test for the 49ers this week as it is for the Cowboys. This is going to probably be the biggest challenge for both teams they'll face this season until at least the playoffs.
Scott, I'm going to get your picks for this game in a wee moment. I just want to ask you quickly about the 49ers D. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, incredible talents. Vanga as well. Do you think they've got enough to stop Pollard, CD, Lamb there? Is this going to be a war of attrition? Do you think they're going to cancel each other out, or is this going to be just a score fest for both teams?
It won't be a score fest because both teams have got too good a defense for that to happen. It will be I think it'll be an enthralling game to watch for a neutral. Dan's heart will be in his mouth through the full game, but I'll enjoy it. But it's just, I think it's going to be a game, and it'll be, as you said, Dan, it'll be the game of the season so far. And there'll be a lot to take away from it because it's 2 high octane teams going toe to toe, and both looking top of their game at the moment, and should be a fantastic watch. Definitely one that if you don't stay up for, you need to catch the game in 40.
Right. Okay. One last thing then, Stu. I can't go without coming to you for this. Brandon Aubrey or Jake Moody? Who's going to win out of the 2 kickers?
Moody. I like Moody a lot. I think.
Yeah,
I think
I'm the same.
He's at home. I mean, that's what's swinging it for me because Aubrey is good too. And
okay.
I'm just going to go with that one.
Who's going to win the game then? You still going to go with the homer?
All the tie. I'm going to go I'm going to go Niners, and I'm going to say it's going to be by 3 points. And it's going to be both teams, their defenses are going to be absolutely excellent. So I think this is going to be a good game either way. But I'll pick the Niners, but not be surprised if the Cowboys win.
Right, Dan, let's get it out the way. How much are the Cowboys going to win by?
Well, one way is the only one way we're going to win this game, and it was something I actually mentioned earlier on. We're talking about it. Our red zone offense this season is shocking. We are number 30 in the league for red zone offense. And this is a stat that actually blew me away. We've had the most plays in the red zone in the league this season. We've had 85 plays in the red zone this season. We've only had eight touchdowns out of that. The team who is second with plays in the red zone is the 49ers. They've only had 54. So we've had 30 more plays in the red zone than a team that's the second. But we're just not doing anything with it. I mean, we're averaging 2.8 yards on a play in the red zone. That's shocking.
Wow.
How many touchdowns is the 49ers converted for that?
I think at least 8. I know that because they give you the top 5 between 8 and 15 touchdowns in last play. So the 49ers will get 54 plays, Bills 53, Chiefs and Chargers 52, and Miami 50. So one of them has got 15 touchdowns. We've got
that
8.
might be Miami.
Miami's touchdowns always end up about 50 yards away.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah,
Might not actually in the end zone.
Yeah, you're right. 18, it's like 30-yard touchdown runs and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
we're in the red zone. We're hitting third down with still 6 yards to go. You just can't be in the red zone and be in that situation. So if we're going to win this game, we need to change that in the red zone, and we need to be more aggressive on first and second down in the red zone. That's been the problem. So if we get to the red zone and go, right, we're here, and we just change the game plan completely. So we will change that this week, and I think we will win. Very tight. I can see this being a field goal to win it as time expires. That's going to be that tight.
Oh, what a great way to finish Sunday or early morning, Monday for us. That'll be Scud. What about yourself?
I'm going to go. It's going to go to extra time. Overtime, sorry.
Nice.
Blank sport.
Aye.
And I'll go with a field goal as well, but I think it may end up in the 49ers. But I do see it being a close game that can go either way. As I said earlier, it's just a coin flip. Whoever's got the ball last, effectively.
Yeah, I can see. I'm going to go with you in this one. I can see Moody giving the Cowboys the Blues. Like that one I can see that happening there. Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much. It brings us ahead for the 3 top games that we're looking at. We've not even got time for the rest in one. What we'll do just now is we will head straight to our fantasy.
We talked too long. There's a surprise.
Really? It's not like it's some really, really good discussions though again this week. And so what we do at this point every week, we try to give you a wee hints and tips on who we think is going to be the fantasy stud and who's going to be a wee sleeper for someone if you can try and pick up or make a trade for the forthcoming week. So Dan, I'll come to you for your stud and sleeper for the QB this week.
Yeah, I think my stud, I don't think is going to be a surprise. It's not Dak Prescott. Going up against the Giants defense and the bonfire they are, it's going to be Tua this week. He's going to destroy the Giants. It's not even going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be hurting after last week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What about your sleeper then?
My sleeper, I don't know whether people consider this to be a bit of a surprise or a sleeper, or whether that's a surprise be expected after his performance last week. But I'm going to go CJ Stroud as my sleeper this week. I think he really appeared last week. I think this week, who are they playing again? I've just completely forgot who they're playing again this week.
Falcons.
Yeah, sorry. A decent matchup for him. I think. Yeah, we're going to go with CJ Stroud to continue his development and lead the Texans.
Yeah, already 1,200 passing yards through the first 4 games. So the guy's really settled into the season. Number 2 pick as well. So yeah, terrific. A great choice there. We have running backs with Stu. Who's your stud running back there, Stu?
Stud of the week, now that his snap count has been removed and he's playing against one of the worst run defenses I've ever seen, the Denver Broncos, Breece Hall from the New York Jets. I think he's going to run amok. So he's the stud of the week at running back. He
did the same last year. Do you think Breece Lightning will strike twice?
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. Will
be your sleeper then.
Yeah, so sleeper. I went back and forth on this one. Who did I have as my sleeper again? Oh, and my brains just went to my tight ends, as it is wont to do. No, my sleeper for this week, again, I don't know if it's really that much of a sleeper because we talked about him earlier on, or I kind of spoke about him in the Titans-Colts game. Mm-hmm. It's the mad mountain that is Derrick Henry, which I find weird saying he's a sleeper because it's just, I guess, it's the way things go in fantasy really where things kind of fall off. But I think Derrick Henry, maybe him. But then I also if I wasn't going to pick him, the other guys I was looking at was maybe Ramondre Stevenson for the Pats. as well. I think he could have a big week against the Saints. So if we want to go in an actual sleeper that isn't Derek Henry, Ramondre Stevenson's your guy.
Good. Thank you, Scott.
What
about your... thought you would be. What about your stud wide receiver then, mate?
I'm going to tack on to Dan's stud quarterback. I don't think Hill's having a quiet game again. So, to me, same Giants, fire. I think Hill will have a big game against them. If Tua's going to do well, so he'll feed off them as well.
Yeah.
So, me
what about your sleeper then, bud?
Flowers for the Ravens. I think he's coming along nicely, and I think he needs to start getting the ball more. So I've got a funny. Hopefully, it'll start this week against the Steelers, isn't it?
Just checking.
Yeah.
So
Ravens Steelers. Yeah.
Hopefully, they can start there.
Fantastic. Back to you, Dan, for the Deadliest D.
Yeah, we spoke very extensively about this team earlier in the show, and I'm going to go with the Bills. I think the Bills D's is the stud of the week this week. I think you could easily pick the Cowboys or the 49ers, but I think going against the opposite offences, it's going to be tough. I think in terms of if you look at fantasy points, I think the Cowboys and the 49ers are just as a risk that could get against each other, but I think the Bills against the Jaguars should be a decent pick in the fantasy this week.
Fantastic. What about your sleeper, D?
So sleeper, it took me a wee while to look because I was looking across the schedule and thinking, right, who can pick up points, who's up against a weaker team, but without being a stud defense. And I'm looking through. I'm actually going to go for the Packers. The Packers at the Raiders. Derek Carr's, is he back? Is he not back? Aidan O'Connell didn't have a great game last week. So I think the Packers could pick up a few points in fantasy this week against the Raiders. And they're a bit out of sorts with who's playing quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Packers for sleep.
Kate Walker's been doing well for me in one of my leagues. So yeah, that's a good shout. Stu, time for your tight ends.
So the stud of the week, complete cop out here, but TJ Hawkinson for the Vikings. Just because if the Vikings are going to win, because I play the Chiefs this week, we never even got to talk about that game, but if the Vikings are going to win, I think that Hawkinson is going to be instrumental because he seems to be, he's as much as Jefferson's a monster, Hawkinson is the other guy that he throws to, especially when he seems to be trying to get those key first downs late in the game. He's been throwing it to him quite a lot, so I could see Hawkinson having a big week.
Fantastic. What about your sleeper then?
Sleeper, I mentioned earlier how I almost was going to pick both Buffalo Bills tight ends, but I ended up going, nah, I'm not going to do that. Sleeper for me this week is Ty Conklin with the New York Jets. Ooh. Like I really like what I've seen of him the past few weeks. The only thing that kind of, or what makes him a sleeper more than anything, is Wilson's been targeting him a lot, but he doesn't seem to do it in the red zone for whatever reason. But this week, again, he's playing the Broncos defense. So I could see Conklin, if he's able to break free, he could maybe bust off a touchdown, or he might actually finally start getting those targets in the red zone. So yeah, Ty Conklin, sleeper of the week for tight end.
Fantastic. Finishes off then, Scott. Who is your stud kicker this week?
I feel bad. This is usually Stu's job.
I know. I got it. I went with McPherson last week and ended up with 3 total points. That wasn't on him. He did his job. It was the rest of the Bengals offense that was the problem.
It's been benched this week.
I'll go with Elliott for the Eagles for my stud. He's going well this season so far, and I don't see any reason for it to stop this week.
Yeah. Rams at Sophie as well, so it's a nice kicking environment.
And sleeper, I'll go with Patterson for Detroit.
Yep.
Again, a kicker's as good as if a team does well but badly begin to kick field goal range, it's just about as much as your luck. Or if they score 10 touchdowns, it can work out well for you as well. But it all depends. But no, I'll go with Patterson for Detroit.
Yeah, I think it's a good shout up against at home to the Panthers there. So as well, that'll be a good shout. Guys, this has been fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed talking some football with you. we managed to get through 3 games, but I think we went into a good bit of depth there, and really enjoyed it. And of course, everybody that's listening at this point is just listening to find out which stud kickers and sleepers kickers were waxing lyrical about, of course. If you have made it this far, thank you very much for listening and watching the Gridiron Crew. We will be back on Monday with the review crew. You can follow us, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Wherever you get your podcast, please leave us a wee comment, a nice wee message, plenty of stars, and it just helps spread the name of the Gridiron Crew far and wide. We have had quite a lot of new listeners with the start of the season, and the crew is just continuing to grow. Brian is absolutely right. I have absolutely dumped Crewmunity because there's just so many puns to do with crew that I can push on you guys. So we'll leave that one going. But
the puns are gruesome.
Oh.
Nice. I'm still absolutely buzzing with Crew's missile of the week. I love that one so much.
I really like that.
Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you get your podcasts, and please share the love of the crew with everyone. The sport is just taking off massively in the UK, Scotland, especially, and we just want to be a part of it. And we want to give a voice to those of you that are listening, especially in Scotland. So if you know anyone that you would like to recommend to join the crew, to come on the podcast and talk rubbish with us for an hour and a half, please get them to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. If you're going to the game in London, have a wonderful time. And hopefully there's a big score for you. It'll be a fantastic weekend. Dan, Scud, Stu, thanks very much, gents.
Cheers.
Cheers, bud.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks. And we will speak to you again next week.